Hi, I'm Emma Sutherland, clinical naturopath, author, and your host today. With over 20 years of clinical practice, I've helped thousands of women and families transform their health using evidence-based integrative strategies. Now, I am very passionate about making science simple and actionable so you feel confident and empowered in your health decisions. This channel is your go-to for thoughtful insights, empowered conversations, and practical tools that support real life wellness. Today, I'm joined by Terry Condon, a financial educator, podcaster, and co-founder of Cash Flow Co. Terry is on a mission to help everyday Australians take control of their money and design a life they actually want to live. You might know him from the Money Minded podcast, where he dives into what it really takes to get money do meaningful work. Now, I think Terry has a unique gift for turning complex financial ideas into practical and powerful insights. And I can't wait for you to hear what he has to share today. Welcome, Terry. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Emma. Love this.
It's a pleasure. Now, I have worked with you and your business partner, Ryan, for 4 years now, and my skills around money have increased exponentially. I used to feel that money was something that I needed to learn more about, read more books, do more quizzes, questionnaires, but you guys really taught me that the way I interact and handle money, it's a skill, right? And I simply need to focus on developing the skill. Like when I go to the gym and want to work out my quads, I've got to develop the quad strength, right? And that actually got me thinking, like all this finance stuff got me thinking to the connection between health and wealth. Because as a naturopath, it's like my big thing is health. And one of my biggest values is health. And I realized that health and wealth are really closely linked. And that if I didn't kind of master my money skill, then the resulting anxiety and stress would be bad for my health. And then I realized, well, if I don't have enough money to spend on my health, that's going to compromise my future health. Hence why I've got you here today, because I really feel like this intersection between finance and health is so important. So first of all, tell us how you got to where you are today. Like what influenced your thinking and shaped your path?
Well, I'm from the health space myself. So I spent 10 years working as a performance coach in sport and love my time in sport, learn a lot about human behavior, learn a lot about goals, goal achievement, habit formation, systems, and feedback as well. And money came into focus for me when I realized that the career that I was in was, although a very, very cool career, quite limited, very flat and quite fickle. Actually, the more experience that you get in sport, the more expendable you become in many ways, because you're getting older, you're actually getting further removed from the people that you're coaching. And there are people who will come in and do it, work twice as hard for half the price. And so the supply demand side of that equation, that doesn't work long term. Some people can make a great career of it, but the vast majority of people don't. And I recognized that I was in a bit of a purple patch at that time and had got to that top level relatively quickly, but it was not at all a given that I was going to be one of those lucky people that ended up sort of having a long sort of career. And I spent 10 years in sport. That's a very long career. And so once I got to that sort of stage where I realized that, and it's really when I met my wife, Elise, and I decided that it was going to be the future that we're going to build. I had to ask myself the question if I wanted to be a sports gypsy for the rest of my life, picking up, chasing a new contract every 2 or 3 years and picking up the family. And the answer to that was just a resounding no. And once I realized that, that's when I got real serious about money. I always knew how to save money. I mean, I think most adults know how to keep some money, most people. But there's something very different between just knowing how to keep some money versus being comfortable making money decisions. And the point that you made is fantastic. Like, it's exactly what our premise is. I think everybody assumes that money is a knowledge problem and it's a talent that some people have and other people don't, when actually it's a skill. And that's what I learned when I started to deeply engage with money and understand it from the inside out. I love Abraham Lincoln's quote. He says, the best way to vanquish your enemies is to make them your friends. And money was an enemy of mine. You know, I was 11 years old and I missed out on, I actually made state swimming championships for the second time. And, you know, they talk about core memories, right? I remember making this team and my claim to fame is that I swam against Ian Thorpe. And the first year I made the state championships for New South Wales, I was just making up the numbers. and I got pantsed. But the second year I'd been training super hard. I knew I was faster, stronger. I was swimming on top of the water, and I was really excited to see how I stacked up this year because I'd been working my ass off. And I remember standing in the kitchen telling my dad that after he jumped off a phone call. And I saw the look on his face. He was just like, yeah, I knew you were going to make it. And then this other look sort of washed over his face, and it was shame. And he said, I can't afford to send you. We were working through one of the worst droughts in history in Australia, and my dad was a farmer. And he just didn't know how to make it work. And I didn't really realize this till later on, but he was just winging it like most adults are winging it as well. He's just like, I've got to make money. I've got to make more money. And in actual fact, you could work your way through problems like that, but it just didn't feel like that was the right thing to do for him. And I didn't want to blame my dad in that moment, so I blamed money. So I'd been living this sort of life where I had this kind of schizophrenic relationship with money, right? So when I was young, I realized money's not my friend. Money gets in the way of the things that I want to do, and it creates this sort of structure in your mind. And so I had this like avoidant relationship when I was younger. But as you get older, you realize you can't ignore money. Money's poking its head into every conversation. It's having the final say so much of the time. And so you realize you can't do that if you're not stupid and ignorant, right? And so I had this relationship where I was like, it was like a fearful avoidant on one side and anxious attached on the other. I'd be like obsessively saving. I'd save some money, and then something would happen, and then the money would go away, and then I'd get a bit more back. And that's just how it was for me when I went into like adulting, if you like. And so I'd had this, like, I had savings, but I didn't really understand money skills, if that makes sense. And, you know, once that happened, once I had that realization in sport, I realized, you know, money is a skill. And that's how I got hooked up with my co-founder, Ryan, who you spent a lot of time with as well. And we figured that out together. He knows a lot about how money works. I know a lot about how people work, and we teamed up to figure out how do people work with money, because I think that's where the magic happens.
Yeah, and having gone through your program and worked with you guys for a long time, you know, I would honestly say it has been an incredible pivot of the way that I think about money. I definitely grew up with a solo dad. Money was always scarce. Money was always hard to have. You had to work really hard. Like, I have such strong imprint of money being difficult and challenging. And, you know, I had to do a lot of work with you guys to change that mindset and look at it in a different way. But you developed a process called money mapping. And I found this actually one of the best things about working with you guys, because it took all of my day to day and week to week, even month to month anxiety out of money. Can you walk us through what it is and why you think it's such a powerful tool for gaining clarity?
Yeah, I think when you solve your own problems, you understand them really deeply. And, you know, for us, like that insight, what I just said before around how do people work with money, we spent the first 2 years of our business actually just trying to understand that problem, because, you know, there's more financial information out there than ever, but financial wellbeing hasn't improved.
Not at all. I think it's
gone the other way.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of macro factors, but you can even look before the pandemic and before those kind of things. It's not trending the right way. And so there's something missing in personal finance. And our belief is like money is for life. Life isn't for money. So personal finance should improve your life, not just your life savings. And that means for us, if you're not using your money, if you're held hostage by your money, if you're still asking money permission, and something's not working. And so money mapping really eventuated based off that insight, which is like something's wrong. You know, everybody's out there claiming to have all the answers and the only money guide you'll ever need. And everyone's just follow my system. It's a foolproof system. And like my background as a coach, right? I worked with Olympic athletes. I work with champions, brown limit, the best of the best. And I'm telling you, nobody follows a prescription to reach their potential. Nobody goes to Les Mills on a Sunday and trains for the Olympics, right? And I don't understand why we apply that mindset to money. And I think it's probably because most people don't trust themselves when it comes to money. And our insight is the best thing isn't to do what you're told to do. It's to figure out what works best for you. And money mapping is essentially a way to practice and start to make friends with money in such a way where you figure out what works best for you. Because like health, the best diet's the one you don't know you're on. Yeah. Money mapping is very similar. It's like you're not on a diet. You're actually just trying to figure out how to fund your goals. It's not about saving money. It's how do we fund our goals? And if we're more intentional with the way we spend and we're actually engaging with our money, then we'll be able to fund our goals. And one's an inherently defensive stance and restrictive, like we just have to save. And the other one's about being offensive and looking forward and actually having ambitions, right? There's a lot of new research coming out around prospection and time preference with money. And prospection is just, it's our ability as humans to be able to sit ourselves in the future and experience that now. And all this research shows that the closer connection you have to that future version of yourself, it improves every decision you make now. You make much wiser decisions now. And so money mapping is about connecting to that future version of you and then building the navigational money skills to make great decisions in pursuit of that ideal that you've created for yourself. Not sort of keeping up with somebody else and competing, measuring against your net worth or anything like that. It's like the life you're trying to build for you. And then learning the actual skills to be able to navigate, because the future doesn't get any less certain. It's just fundamentally uncertain. So we need to build our skills to be able to handle that uncertainty and be able to make more better decisions to get what we want. That's how I describe it, like in a nutshell, but there's obviously discrete skills within it.
Yeah, from a user experience perspective, I love the intentional spending, that every dollar
Yes.
has a job. And it made me feel more empowered around, oh, I get to choose this, rather than me going, oh shit, I've got this bill and I've got to find the money for it. I know it's somewhere, but where is it? But this intentionality about allocations and making sure that your values aligned, that to me really resonated and has been so fantastic in my money mapping experience, knowing that everything is
Yeah.
accounted for. I don't have to think about it on a day-to-day basis. I look at it once a month and I go through it in detail. I quite enjoy doing it. It's not something
Yeah.
that I get worried or scared about now. I'm like, oh, okay, all right, it's time to do money mapping at the end of the month. Let's get it done. And then kind of looking at, oh, so I've done this month. Where have I shifted this month? Like, what's changed
Mhm.
since last month is also really satisfying from that perspective. But when you think about the mindset shifts that are essential for somebody that wants to move from that financial sort of stress, they'll see money as something that's difficult and hard, to one of financial confidence. What do you think the most pivotal mindset shift needs to be?
I'm so glad you asked that question. I spent the last 3 weeks just updating the first module in our mentorship, which is precisely around this question. Why is it that some people can have kind of break out, like get beyond their plateaus and make bigger things happen, while a lot of us are sort of stuck in stress and struggle? And the answer really surprised me. So, as you said, like I've been doing this, we've been doing it for 6 years now. We've had 1,600 people go through our program. And let me tell you, you learn a lot just by looking, like sitting in these conversations, seeing how people think and feel about it. I've learned so much for myself. I've seen myself in other people. Other people have taught me things in the way they're sort of going about it. And I think the biggest thing that I've learned, you said mindset shift. The biggest thing is it actually comes back to psychology. So a lot of my background and a lot of what I understood as a coach in sport was that, like, a lot of the time, the mind is the software for the body, right? It's the software. So whatever's happening in the mind is controlling what's happening in the body. And that is exactly the same with money, right? Because we're acting on our decisions, and our decisions originate in the brain. And so the mindset is where it starts. And what is really interesting is we all have, like, the body is designed to make sure that we pass our genes on to the next generation so that humans as a race survive, as a species survive, right? And so your brain doesn't care about your goals. It doesn't care if you want to do better with money or anything like it. It doesn't give a shit. All it cares about is making sure that humans as a species survive. And what are the best ways that you can do that? And one of the reasons why we're at the top of the food chain is that we got better at adapting to change. What do you think the best way to adapt to change is, Emma? Be best at predicting it.
Right. Okay.
And so how do you be good at predicting change?
I'm not sure. I'd say look backwards, see the patterns from previous.
Yep. And then once you've looked backwards and seen patterns from previous, what do? You do your best to make the future look like the past.
Yeah.
Right? Now, what happens if your past is like my past, where you've got these core memories where you're like, money's not my friend. Money's hard to come by. Money's scarce. People fight around money. Money creates conflict. See all these ideas. These all happen in the formative years of 0 to 7. Your mind is like a sponge during this time. It's like picking up information. It's picking up information. It's bringing it in. And the theory of self in psychology says that, 0 to 7 is where our mind, our worldview, our way of life eventuate or sort of develops. And once we get to 7, it kind of sets. It's like that sponge goes dry and everything gets stuck in the sponge, right? And so if your way of life, your worldview with money is negative in that way, and most of the time it is, because most of our conclusions with money and pretty much ourselves, the world, everything, they're negative because it's safer to assume the worst. It's safer to assume the worst than it is to go, everything's going to go well. And so this is so backwards, but essentially what we do, if we're not aware of this and we actually don't know how to get out of this, all we do is continually make our future look like the past.
Because it's
If you
safe and
saw,
it's
heard,
comfortable.
it's what we know, right?
Yeah.
And I can predict it. And so again, we're held hostage by our biology because we don't have a better ideal. And so the mindset shift, and you experience this, we do that life by design process. I really haven't understood the power of this till I went back and really understood what's going on with like how we get stuck. Because I've always been focused on how do we achieve, right? And I asked that very different question. I said, well, how do we get stuck, and how do we get stuck in struggle and stress in a way that we don't understand that we're doing? And this is kind of where I got to. I was like, that's how we get stuck. And that life by design process, what it is a way to create a future or an ideal or a state. Like I said before, prospection. We have the ability to use our imagination to pick ourselves up, put ourselves in the future and experience that. And our body doesn't know the difference. Why that's so important is because we're giving our brain a better problem to solve than could we help humans survive?
Yeah.
Right. And we're now creating priorities. And the great thing is that when we connect to that future version of ourselves, we make decisions from the future in the present. We do much better.
Yeah.
If we don't do that, then we're looking through a prism of our past, and all we're doing is trying to survive. We get stuck in survival.
Yeah.
Does that make sense in terms of the mindset shift?
Yeah, totally. And like I've actually got in a chalkboard in my room, and I've got on it at the moment, who do I need to become in order to have, and then it's like, a dot, 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 dot. So it's like, if I want something, who do I need to become in order to have that? It's not what do I need to do in order to have that, it's who I need to become. But that takes me to my next question about the role of identity, and what role does identity play in building lasting money habits, and how can someone start shifting that self-image to match those financial goals?
Yes, another great question. So identity it's a story we tell ourselves. Who you are now is simply the end result of the stack of decisions and actions you've taken to get to this point. Right. So what's really interesting is when you set that sort of a vision that's further off in the future that creates a better ideal, a better problem to solve and chase for your brain, you're essentially creating a vacuum and a gap between the current identity, who you are now, and who you need to be. And if that vision matters enough to you and it is aligned with your values and it's really important to you, then you will be almost pulled in that direction. And this is what I think is really interesting. You're going to feel out on a limb. You're going to feel like a fraud. You're going to feel like this isn't right because it's not right for you. You are now inadequate. You now need to evolve. And so if you're on your growing edge, you're going to constantly be feeling like you're doing things that are unsafe because you can't see into that future. So your brain's going, this is danger, this is danger, this is danger. But it's not. That's you moving towards and expanding that comfort zone to move towards building that new identity. People that know me from sport, they're like, what are you talking about? You're talking about money. Like they just know me as that person. I'm talking to this elite athlete that I worked 8 years ago. They're going to start asking me different questions because they just know me as this other version of me. And then someone like yourself, you know me in this context, you see a completely different version of me, but I'm the same human, but I built different identities. But I don't even know how I did this. You know what I mean? Like I just moved in the direction of like, I want to do a better job. I want to do more with my coaching. I want to have a bigger impact, and I want to do it my way. I want to work in a way that works for me. And I always found when I was coaching in sport, I'll be having a different conversation with athletes. I'd be like, who do you want to be? Like, where do you want to get to with this? And so it is actually a lot more aligned with the money conversation. And so I guess like in terms of identity, when you do sit down and really map out what you want your future to look like, you are in a sense creating a new identity that you have to become in order to be able to achieve that. And it's just understanding that in the process of moving towards that, you're going to be taking different actions. And every time you take a different action, you'll get a different outcome, and you'll build new evidence to become a different kind of person. Like there are skills you know now before you started your business that would have been unfathomable to you when you started.
Absolutely.
Correct? You're like, that's magic. You know what I mean? So I think we make this mistake of projecting our current selves into the future and saying, well, I can't do that. And you're like, yes, you can't do that because who you are is not the person. It's the you that you become in its pursuit that achieves that. So identity is it's a byproduct of moving towards something that matters.
Yes. And I really think that it's important not to get stuck in that identity because it does keep you in a place where it's too safe. You're not going to get the personal growth. You're not going to evolve into that full kind of expression of yourself. And it is uncomfortable. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I cried when I first did your course because it was challenging. It was pushing me to challenge my ideas and to challenge my perception of who I was as a single mom and so much more. But if you don't kind of push through that discomfort, you really do stay stuck. So I think that identity has a huge role to play in it. Like I see myself now as so much more than how I saw myself before I did all that work with you guys. It's actually really interesting from that
Well,
self.
you have a body of work and the evidence that creates self-efficacy, right?
Yeah.
Self-efficacy is just the belief that I can handle certain things. And the further you push, you build more self-efficacy.
Mm.
And the reason we don't push into the future is because we haven't done that. We keep following these prescriptions, and those prescriptions, we don't learn anything. We're not making any decisions. We don't build any self-efficacy. We're just like, I trust that this is going to work. I hope that this is going to work. You know, it's like religion in that sense. Like you just
Yeah.
cling to this, like ideological dogma, like the protocol, just follow the protocol, follow the protocol. You know what I mean? Instead of think for yourself, take responsibility, take ownership. Until you take ownership, you'll never be the boss.
Yeah, but it's the taking ownership that for me was the most frightening because I was always
Yeah.
scared from those core beliefs and core values. I was always scared of making the same mistakes my parents did and ending up in the same situation as my parents, which terrified me and still terrifies me to this day. But it is about, all really pushing through that discomfort and realizing actually I'm pretty good at this now. I'm working those skills and I'm mastering those skills. And I think that is the difference, I think, between because I saw a lot of finance people before I saw you guys, because I thought that I had to learn more to be better at it. You guys were not the first people that I worked with, but you guys were the first people that made me realize all of that side of financial literacy and money kind of awareness, which was really fascinating, as well as being
I think
scary.
there's definitely a lot to learn in money. I find it fascinating from that perspective. But one of the biggest mistakes I see though is that instead of doing more, people want to learn more.
Yeah, that was me. That was me.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, money is a lot like medicine, and it's a lot like your field as well. There's disciplines and subject matter experts within it. And there are people that devote their whole lives to their subject matter. So to expect that you're going to be able to pick up what somebody's devoted their life to and then all of a sudden get it, like it's super naive when you think about it, right? So you want to be an expert in your own situation, what matters to you, how to manage what you're making and how to make more to manage. And then you want to buy other people's expertise, particularly when it comes to subject matter stuff. So for example, the property, you know, it boggles my mind to think that people wouldn't use an expert when it comes to property. It's such a big decision. And if you get it right, it can be great. If you get it wrong, it can be terrible, like really hard. And so I think the stat is the average home buyer or property buyer first time takes about 18 months to do it themselves. And prices run much faster than you can save in 18 months in Australia.
Totally.
So you're always better most of the time, providing if you're working with a reputable professional, to be able to buy that expertise at that period of time. So I guess from our perspective, we're like, you want to become an expert in your own situation, your own cash flow ecosystem, your own decision-making, your own priorities, so that you can plug these subject matter experts in and then tell them what to do for you instead of take direction from them for you. Like, don't let them have goals for you and then you plug into their goals. You go to them and say, you are now part of my money team. You work for me. Your job is to do this. And I think that's a very different stance. So you have to build up that kind of capability, that confidence, that self-efficacy, and the self-awareness as well. And you don't have to become a money expert and an expert at everything, because that is just super overwhelming. And I think that's why most people don't even start.
Absolutely. And I think, I mean, if you had to pick 3 money skills that you think should be taught at school, because obviously, you know, I have a daughter, you have kids, nothing around financial literacy is really taught at school. If you had a magic wand, what skill would you like to be taught at school in this space?
I think if you know how to make money, you never worry about it.
Yeah.
And so there are a few sub skills within that I'd say. And I want to distinguish between earning and making money as well. So earning money is where essentially you trade time and some sort of expertise within a time. And it's like 1 unit of my time equals X units of money. That's earning, where you sort of like, you know, I do this, I get that. Making money is where you look at something, you look at a problem that you want to solve for somebody and you figure out how to serve them in a way that adds value to their life. So you think about what you do and you solve the problem of longevity and you solve the problem of, for example, fertility, these kind of problems, and you build expertise around that, and then you build a business around that. The business itself is an asset. It's an organism. It's something that exists outside of you that allows you to earn a bit of a leveraged income.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you can plug employees into this, you can sell products through that. So your time and money aren't directly linked as closely as somebody who just works as an employee. Okay. And there's nothing wrong with that. But what I'm saying is, if you could learn the difference between those two things when you were younger, your sense of what's possible is completely different, because you would learn how to get outside of yourself for a second and think about what other people want from you, how you can add the most value, and the value is measured in the money. The more you're making, the more the world is telling you that what you're doing is important to them, not you, to them. And so I think that mindset's super important. And then it's also about, how do you actually convert that interest into money? So the actual ability to sell. I think everyone has this like very negative relationship with money or selling, but I think it's one of the most valuable things, because
we're selling all the time. Everything we do, we're selling.
You put the green jacket on or the green jumper on today. Why?
Yeah.
You did it for a reason. You got your apartment set out a certain way. Why? You did it for a certain reason. But there's something really metaphysical when it comes to money. And I don't want to get too far into the weeds of this, but if you're the person that creates a transaction, two people walk away with more of what they want when something is sold. Okay.
Yeah.
Because when I pay you, I'm saying to you, I value the thing you're doing for me more than the money. Yes. And when you take my money, you're saying, I value your money more than the thing, because the thing is actually cheaper for me. So you get what you want and I get what I want in the same transaction. Think about that. Two people walk in, they don't have what they want, right? Then a transaction happens. We both get more of what we want.
Yeah, win-win.
And if wealth is having more of what you value, then we just created wealth. And so if you know how to create that transaction and you know how to facilitate that, guess what you know how to make? Wealth. And so I know that's probably not what you expected to hear from me, but like being a business owner now and kind of looking back on it and thinking about my kids, that's really what I want to teach them. I also want to teach them how to manage it, obviously.
What to do with it once you've accumulated it. Yes.
Yeah, because look, if you have a leaky ship, it doesn't matter what you make. Like we've had people earning $1 million and they just layer on obligations at $1 million income, and they're the most stressed people you'll ever meet. So 100% going to teach them how to manage it and give every single dollar a job. But I think, you said 3 skills. I said make money, I said facilitate transactions, and then learn how to manage it. Those are the 3.
Yeah, love it. And last question, people, the continual patterns of mistakes that people make, either getting them into a bad space with money, or what do you see the successful people doing consistently around money? Either or.
Yeah, like I think I'd go back to what I said at the start, right? The biggest mistake I see people make is thinking that the answer is in a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
And that might be part of the answer, but people skipping that first part, right? Like we stay stuck in that stress and struggle if we don't have a bigger idea or bigger problem to solve. There's nothing that I can see. There's nothing that I can identify with or connect to from a number in a spreadsheet. And so even though the number in the spreadsheet is really important as we problem solve towards our goals and our vision, we don't want to start there. So the biggest mistake I see people make is like, I'm going to get serious about money. Print out all your bank statements. I'm going to build this super complex spreadsheet. And then I'm going to spend like hours and hours and hours in it. And it's going to make heaps of sense to me. And then when my partner, I just start to tell him or her that, this is the way we're going to do it. And they're like, what the fuck is that? I don't even know what that is. Right? You put in the cart before the horse. And like we make this big distinction between wealth and money. Wealth, like I said, wealth is having more of what you value, and money is the way we measure and move it. Yeah. And there's this concept called Goodhart's law, right? Goodhart's law is the idea that when a measure becomes the target, then it ceases to be a good measure.
Yeah.
Okay. And I see people jumping in, assuming that money is wealth and wealth is money, because whatever gets me more money will get me more wealth. Patently incorrect. And so if I was to say like the biggest myth, those two things are the same. Money is wealth, wealth is money. They're not the same. One is actually just a mechanism. It's an information technology and it's a measure. And the other one is actually what you want. And so people jumping straight past the first part, not really getting clear on what they really, really want, because they think the money's the answer.
Yeah, I love that, separating those two and really giving them their correct definitions, because everybody gets those two wrong. completely wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
So lastly, Terry, where can people find you? We will put all the links in the show notes, but where should people head if they want to work with you, if they want to hear your podcast? Where can they find you?
Yeah. So if you want to learn a little bit more about us, what I'll probably point to actually is we did a financial skills course. So we've been talking a lot about skills today.
Yes. I've done that. Yes, I loved it.
Yeah, so you can do a diagnostic and it'll actually show you what the 5 money skills are, and it'll show you how you sit against each of these 5 money skills. And what it'll even do for you is give you some recommendations and almost like a bit of a personalized course where it's like, hey, listen to these episodes on the podcast, look at these resources, and it'll help you kind of start that journey. But if you want to know more about, us and the work that we do and those sort of things, then just go to cashflowco.com.au and you'll be able to find out whatever information you want there.
Awesome. All right. Well, you know that I love you guys. You completely changed how I think about money, how I master money, my skills around money. And for that, I'll always be forever grateful. Thank you so much. And yeah, thanks for being with us today, Terry.
No worries, anytime at all. Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Thanks for being with me today. Don't forget to like this video and hit the subscribe button below. Check out the links in the show notes for more health empowering information. And don't forget, you can always pop a question in the comments below, which I'll be more than happy to answer.